Ryan's back. Meeting for August 18, 2020 to order. The first item on the agenda is 6378 Mill Street. Upstate Modernist Timely Signs of Kingston representing. Where is Paul?
I don't see Paul.
I see Paul.
I see Paul's name.
I don't see that.
I see Paul's name.
I don't.
I see Paul's name, but he's muted.
Yes, he's, oh, Mary, you're getting good at this.
Well,
Looks like Tim Decker's muted too.
Well, you can mute yourself if somebody comes in and says, you want some ice?
Stay muted, and otherwise you kind of show up when you don't want to show up. When the dog barks.
Well,
Unmute.
oh, there he is.
There he is.
Are you
Okay.
representing Upstate Modernist, or is Mr. Maxwell?
No. Mr. McCasland is going to be representing.
Okay.
I'm
here.
You got to put your video on or whatever.
Mr. McCaslin.
Well, you got to turn up your mic.
I'm under Jude there. Can you guys hear me?
Oh, Jude? Okay.
I hear you good. Paul was a little light.
Is there anyone else, Jude, who's going to be participating for this application?
It's going to be just me, but I'm actually changing this to Timely Signs as it should be.
Okay.
Okay, so do we have a, Brian, do we have pictures of this or pictures of somebody else?
Jude, do you want to share the screen, or I can share the screen, whichever is.
I mean, you guys don't have copies of the layouts?
They do. I will share the screen.
Well, we can share the screen so we can see it full screen.
Just 1 second
Brian,
here.
get started.
And my name is Tyson, just so everybody knows, Tyson McCasland.
Okay.
And just to note, the applicants Doug Maxwell and Christopher Deering of Upstate Modernists are also on.
Okay, Timely Signs of Kingston.
Yes, I know that Doug just signed in as well, so he's just going to be there to listen, but he can answer questions if necessary.
100 miles leaving, and so there's, this is going, look, this is going on the building. Is there a pole there already?
There is not. We're fabricating one and putting it up there.
Where did this go? Why did I just lose this?
You might be
It looks
zoomed
like
in
a very attractive sign.
You might be zoomed in too far. Oh, that's weird. Where did it go?
Oh, up. It's probably at the top.
Hold on. We had some technical issues, Tyson, so potentially I've lost everything that I had queued up for this this applicant. So just bear with me.
Oh, sure, no problem.
1 second here. Can you see this?
Yes.
I can, yes.
78.
Okay, let me try again.
And there's the sign.
You're good.
There we go.
There it is.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's very attractive. Okay.
That's a new pole. It's going to be white on black.
That's correct. It's going to have painted graphics and a nice, clean aluminum bracket there.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Very nice.
No
Won't hit
window
anybody in
signs.
the head?
No.
It's between.
No, it's actually to the left side of that porch there, so people will be walking to the right side of it.
Okay, and no light, right? No light on this
No
one?
lights.
Okay.
And no window signs.
Nope, not at this point. If they do, they would end up going back for that, but this is all they're interested in right now.
Okay, so what you see on the windows there is all disappearing.
So that's correct. That's actually was for 100 Mile, which is moving out of that location, and I believe you guys have new window graphics for that further down on the agenda for the other business that's going in there. That's the Beck, I believe.
So this sign is for the second floor?
That's correct.
And 2 square feet is what's allocated?
It should be well under what's allocated.
You know,
I
what's a
believe-
little
Go back
bit
up to
believe
higher?
it's-
the application itself.
Excuse me?
Can you go back up to the application itself?
Oh.
Oops.
Yeah, it's looking-
You can read sideways.
Mhm.
Available 10 square feet and they're using 4.
10.5 is available for the building, yes, as a whole.
So there's 5.5 available for the other.
You want to put
first
something
floor.
in the window or, well, that'd be in a second floor window, which wouldn't make sense, but, yeah, okay.
There should be an additional 6.5 for the other applicant.
The math is off here.
Oh, yeah, so that should be 6.5, excuse us on that.
Oh, so the signage available for the whole building is 10 and a half.
10.5. They're
That's
using
correct.
4 for a 2x2 hanging sign.
So there's 6.5 available for the next guy.
That's correct.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the sign as proposed with no additional illumination.
We
And
have a
I'll
second.
second that.
Then we need a roll call vote. Mary,
Yes.
Michael Gee,
Yes.
Tim Decker,
Yes.
John Clark,
Yes.
David Miller, yes. Okay, good luck. What are you? What is Upstate Modernist?
So they sell homes and there's architecture they do there.
Oh, okay.
Yes, real estate.
Real estate. Okay, well, good luck.
I will tell them.
Second item on the agenda,
Thank you.
Beck. Beck. I have to find out what that is too. They'll be in 100 Mile in the first store. Do you have the stuff for the Beck, Ryan?
I do. Just let me cue it up.
Oh, buildings, wait a minute. They say 10 square feet. It's 10 and a half, or wait. So the other application said 10 and a half, and this one says 10. But we agreed there was 6 and a half left,
Either way, they're within the,
and they want 5 and a half. Okay, yeah, they're
All
all right.
right, so that's okay.
They're all right. Can we see the sign, Ryan?
I'm sorry once again, guys. I think when I lost a connection, it messed me all up. So just bear with me. Is the applicant here?
Is the applicant Paul? Or the-
I don't think so.
Where's-
You want to move on to the next one?
So Paul's not the applicant? Okay.
There it is, the Beck. But we don't have,
I don't know
Okay.
where the applicant is.
the Beck.
Is it Timely Signs?
No, the new tenant was consulting with their own sign designer. So I've only been corresponding with that's the wrong.
So they're
I've
gonna
been
have the 100
corresponding
Mile
with them.
sign converted to the Beck, then they're gonna have a window, the Beck,
to
whatever the
with
Beck
these
is.
folks.
Anna Claudia Schultz and Aaron Smiley, so they're not here.
Apparently
So-
not.
All
So
right.
go to Ann Raft
Next
Photography.
sign is Ann Raff Photography, 18 Garden Street. Are they here?
Yes, Ann is here.
Okay, so this is the Nation's new building, and 10 and a half square feet is allowed.
You need to turn on your microphone,
yeah,
Ann.
David, can we
Yeah.
go back to the Beck for a
Yeah.
second? Before they come on? They
Okay.
own, only lists one sign, but they have it appears they have a window sign and a hanging sign.
Right.
No, I don't. I have just a window sign.
No, we're talking about, when we get, if the Beck shows up, we'll
Right.
talk about the fact that they've only got one sign allocated and they've got two signs in the picture. So Anrath Photography has 10 square feet, 10 and a half square feet, and the signage totaling is 5.2. And the sign is inside the window.
Right, it looks very nice.
So David, before I forget, we didn't remind the earlier applicant that we approved about the following the sign code in terms of sandwich board signs, all that other good stuff or bad stuff.
No, we didn't, but
So we will need to
we'll remind them. But right now, that
retroactively do that.
law's been suspended for the year, so
Well, right, that's,
get back to them. We'll remind them for 2021, there are no sandwich boards allowed. So this is the sign,
Yes,
and it's hanging so it's inside the window.
it's inside the window, yes.
And Tim, the photographs are like showing your wares. That doesn't count as signage.
does it have to be a distance from the window?
Was behind,
John Clark, do we have something in the code?
I'm not sure baby pictures count, but we do have something in the code. Give me a second and I'll find it.
If you sell pots and pans, you can have pots and pans in your window, but does it have to be a distance? Or if they're showing pictures of real estate houses for sale, does it have to be?
Right, they're not supposed to be right on the glass. I think it's either 6 inches or 12 inches from the glass.
But real estate photos are always right on the glass.
They're not supposed to be.
Okay.
I mean, you could just put a spacer there so they're just
Right.
back from the glass.
They're not on the glass, but they're
It's what most of the
not
real estate
inches
have.
away
They have
from
them
the glass.
hanging away from the glass.
Right.
Minimum 12 inches from the inside of the window if it's considered a sign. So this one that is improved and anything else you wanted to put within that 10 and a half square feet could be inside the window. But window display items and that sort of thing are supposed to be, that could be considered a sign, are supposed to be 12 inches back from the glass.
So the photos are fine, the sign is not.
No, the sign is fine. The photos are not. The photos need to be further back. Need to be 12 inches or more behind off the glass.
All right.
Unless they're approved as a sign. She actually has excess
Right, so she's
square footage that she could use as a sign, but she, in the other pane, has also additional signs, paper signs.
This little phone, email, yeah.
Is there any more pictures, Brian?
There's
Hello?
the one I just sent him.
Okay.
I mean, I can just remove everything except for the sign. I don't, it is whatever. I just
You
just
can
think it's
display those
interesting because,
pictures, but
what?
they just need to be not on the glass, not. So at
Right,
least
but 12
away
inches from the glass,
glass.
I can't hang them. So they might as well just be removed then. I mean, real estate people put their images of their buildings right up on the glass. So I'm a little
Well,
confused
if you
about
look,
that.
most of them have them hanging off of string or whatever that's 12 inches away from the glass.
Okay.
I don't have an issue with the signage or the pictures, but that is the law. But something else is that, Maish has not finished his outdoor construction. The Parking lot was supposed to be paved, the dumpster was supposed to be screened, and there was supposed to be some garden or landscaping in the back, and none of that has been done yet. What does the board feel about?
What's the story on that?
I mean, he's got his drainage pits done in there, which was required, but the rainwater's not going to get into the drainage if you don't have macadam. And the dumpster is sitting out there on.
Our zoning enforcement officer needs to send Maish a reminder and deadline for finishing.
No, I think what we're going to do is we're going to suspend this application and take it off tonight's agenda and until we get action from Maish Friedman. So I recommend we take the application off the agenda now.
But the sign has been hanging in there illegally for many weeks. And that
Yeah,
concerns us.
so I could issue a violation notice to the applicant in the meantime and see which one gets corrected first.
All right.
I didn't know. He let me know a month ago. I had no idea, and I told Ryan, and Ryan helped me do the application.
I know, but
Maish-
Maish knows we have to apply for a sign when you open a new business. You know.
But he didn't tell me that, and so I didn't know.
I'll send you a violation notice in the mail tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, you have to talk to Maish. So we're going to go on to the next item.
Right, you're not the culprit.
Is it Beck?
Well, it
She is the
certainly
culprit,
feels
but not
like
the
it.
major
so.
culprit.
Well, Maish is the culprit.
I know, but Maish has been giving me a hard time about trying to get things fixed inside, and I just had to write him a certified letter, and he just fixed everything, and now I'm paying full-time rent again, and he never fixed anything, and he's threatening me, so it's a big old mess, I guess.
You shouldn't be paying full-time rent if your window.
I wouldn't get into that, Mary.
Mary, that's not.
Yeah, we won't get into that, but yeah, so it's up with.
I was interrupted. What was the result of the sign application?
It's up to the board.
We're going to hold it over till September 1.
Okay.
And John, you're going to follow up with.
Why don't we hold over the violation notice to this applicant until, send the violation notice to the owner, not the tenant,
Yes, yeah.
so that she can go on doing her business.
Okay.
I agree with John.
Yeah, I agree with
I'm
John.
okay with that.
Yes, okay. All right, so Ryan, did Beck show up?
I don't see anyone
Okay,
or any familiar names for that, and I just need a roll call vote, a motion and a roll call vote for ANRAF photography sign application.
all right.
We have the motion first.
Someone make a motion to hold this over to September 1st?
I'll make that motion.
I thought we were going to approve the sign, but have the property owner cited in violation.
What I had suggested is that we just not send a violation notice to the tenant about the sign. So in essence, it's held over until the next month
Okay.
without any action tonight.
Without any action against the tenant. Okay.
Right.
We're not voting on anything, Ryan.
Okay.
All right. Well,
So the sign can stay up for another month until we resolve the issue with the landlord.
Until the beginning of September.
Yeah.
all right. 100 Mile now has moved to the Liberty. And are they here?
Paul?
Turn on your microphone, Paul. You, Ryan, do you have the 100-mile application?
Unless Paul wants to present.
I can, let me just open.
You have to get closer to your mic or turn up the volume or something. It's hard to hear you.
Okay, one moment. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay.
A little bit, yeah.
Let me see if I can share this document.
Now I can't hear him at all.
Yeah, it's worse.
Second here. Okay.
Well, maybe you could just make up a bunch of signs and express what you have to express on signs.
Just hold up a sign.
All right, I got the. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
That's
Yes.
better. Paul, I think just to keep things moving, I will share my screen. Just let me
That's fine. I can. Either you
just
or
let me locate the right PDF. I believe this is it. Is this correct, Paul?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay.
So we had a preliminary meeting with John and Ryan because we were encouraging M West, the property owner, to come up with a plan for the entire building before their first tenant went in, so that we could get an equitable balancing of the available square footage for this building. And on this first page, you'll see that we're proposing 2 hanging signs, a maximum of 2 hanging signs, one on each end of the building. One is already existing. Where the Liberty was, there's a bracket, and it has some non-compliant lighting. So what we're proposing we do is make 2 new identical brackets with integrated lighting, shielded units that meet the current lighting requirements. No exposed bulbs, low voltage. And in order for 100 Mile to come and before the board for this application, we needed to kind of divide up the square footage of the building across 3 tenants. Obviously, the restaurant gets the bulk of the square footage because it's got the first floor and the ground floor, or I'm sorry, the subterranean or basement floor. 100 Mile has part of the second floor, and then what they're calling a future tenant is signage that is currently set aside for future use. They don't need it now. So that sign below the 100 Mile sign allowance of 6 square feet may or may not ever be installed, but we're keeping that in reserve. So based on the square footage that the tenant is leasing, 100 Mile is designated 6 square feet. You go to the second, any questions on it? Yeah, so if you go back one, I just want to show, like, this is the north side of the north end of the building. That bracket is going to come down and be replaced with a new bracket, much in the same style, and it will have a 12.5 square feet, or 12 square foot sign.
But there'll be nothing there now.
There will be nothing there now because until the restaurant is leased. We want to have, we wanted to have a structure in place to speed the application for the restaurant. Should that happen soon, we'll we wanted to disclose what we were trying to do ahead of time and show you that we're doing 2 uniform signs on the building. So
And what will be on the other sign? Just the 100 mile and nothing under it for now?
correct. It just shows the demonstration of the square footage with the second sign, but it's unlikely that there will be a second sign installed. Go to the next page, Ryan. This is the 14.5-inch by 60-inch 100-mile brand on a sign panel. Fairly simple type, very similar to the sign they currently have permitted on a black background. And then the last page just kind of shows the scale of that on the building. So the next page kind of shows the single sign.
Brian, do you have the last page or?
That's that page. Well, yeah. So that's kind of the location.
That's all that will be there today.
Yeah. It will have lighting on it, fairly discreet, shown on the first couple of slides.
So they're on the second floor. So there's nothing on the door to say 100 mile upstairs or what do you have to go in the Liberty entrance, right?
Yeah, there are some boxes.
I can't hear you again.
Can't hear you.
How about that? Is that okay?
Goes in and out, but so this is all we'll be voting on tonight, the 100 mile. And people will see that sign on the street and know where it is. How are they going to know it's?
As I was saying, there are two, I think they're menu boxes, or perhaps there are other literature boxes on each side of the building that are still there. And because 100 mile has such a relatively small sign in there on the second floor.
I have no idea what Paul is saying.
I can't hear you at all, Paul. Is there going to be a sign on the door, 100 mile second floor?
No.
Okay, people have to find their way to it. All right. So
Well,
there's
wait a
always
minute.
huh?
There's 2 panels on both sides of the door that are enclosed in plexiglass or glass that currently are used as signage. And they could continue to be used as directional signs and hours of business and that sort of thing. So on both sides of the door, they could say 100 mile second floor, hours, what days and hours. But they're not supposed to be large enough to be really considered competing signs.
Right. So what they're saying, what the landlord has said is they would, 100 mile was allowed to have one of those window boxes, or put a small sign in one of the window boxes that tells people that we're on the second floor, go up, come in the front door and go up the stairs, because it was a little bit challenging for them to get that,
As long as those can be considered directional signs rather than,
We were very clear with them that the language of the sign has to be directional in nature, giving them instructions on how to go upstairs, and that the content of that directional could not exceed 2 square feet.
I think that's appropriate, to have directional signs, hours of operation. We allow that for like restaurants and other businesses that have menus and small print stuff that you can go up and look at and find your way to where you need to go.
Yeah, John's message to me was consistent with what you're saying. So
Okay, good.
And we did reflect that they get the space to use one of the window boxes.
Okay. Anybody have any other questions?
Nope.
Good.
Make a motion to approve the sign for 100 mile as proposed.
I'll second that.
Okay. Mary Quinn,
Aye.
John Clark,
Bye.
Michael Gee,
Aye.
Tim Decker,
Aye.
David Miller, aye. It's approved. Good luck to 100 Mile.
Thank you very much. Good to see you guys.
Thank you, Paul.
I will, I gotta have to invest in a microphone. All right, take care. Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next item on the agenda are Warren Temple Smith.
He's here, David. I let him in.
Okay,
I'm here, and I'm expecting Jeffrey Main to join us too.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Oh, there you are. Okay, very good. Thanks, Jeff.
so I think we were concerned about several items.
Yes.
The chimney was an internal chimney. That was one of the approved plans, and now we have an external chimney. So we don't know how that happened.
Well, so I can address how that happened, certainly. The intention originally was to have an internal chimney between the living area and the little media room, and then sometime during construction documents, the Mains engaged interior designer to help them with a lot of interior choices, and at that time we started revisiting the best place in the room for a chimney based on furniture location and things like that. And I think Jeffrey can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at one time we considered every wall in the room for the chimney, and the Mains finally decided that the west wall made the most sense, and then the discussion was, would it project into the room or project out of the room? And to be perfectly honest, you know, I lost sight of the fact that that was a change that would certainly be subject to planning board review. So when we finally settled, everybody on the design team and the Mains, that they wanted a chimney on that wall, and then the discussion, what should it look like, and we felt it needed to be stone or brick veneer on the outside. But that was a change, and Ryan correctly pointed that out, and that certainly should have been subject to a further amended review and site plan approval by the planning board. So I certainly take responsibility for that, and it slipped my mind. I wasn't even thinking of that as a change to the exterior of the building, but of course it was.
Because it's quite a large structure on the right side of that building.
Right.
Is that the original chimney? I mean, it's the
No.
original.
No,
That's not the original brick.
There was no.
Okay.
No.
Is that real
There
brick
was no
or?
external chimney on that house.
Okay.
Right. There was a chimney on the other side of the house, on the east side.
But it was internal.
Right. It was internal.
There was no external chimney.
That's right. I think
Hi,
there might have
guys.
been
My
one
apologies
addition
for
to
being
that.
late.
So
Sorry to interrupt.
who is Aaron Smile?
What it
One of
was.
your other applicants?
That's the Beck. So I just had to mute them. So they're gonna have to wait.
Okay, so among the other issues is that the porch or entry porch off of the driveway appears dramatically different from what was presented and approved on the site plan.
The side entry porch?
Yes.
Yeah, I would ask Jeffrey to address that.
Yeah, absolutely. The decision of I think particularly the louvers that are present there. I think the structure itself was a part of those drawings. The louvers themselves certainly are a change. It was a change.
So they can be removed?
Well, yeah, I think that's something that absolutely I recognize was an oversight on my part as a design decision that should have also gone in front of the board. Warren was not at all involved in that decision making, and so I recognize that also that was a during the construction change that I should have had approval for.
So that porch is clearly not in character with the building itself, and
yeah.
I would suggest that what was initially proposed was in character, and since it is reasonably prominent to the street appearance of the building, I would suggest that it should be modified back to appear as was initially proposed.
Yeah, I mean, sure. I essentially my thoughts would be in being in the historic district, absolutely, I wanted to get a sense from the board whether or not there was an overall consensus, whether or not we would apply for a variance at this point, or if there was consensus from the board, then we would certainly move forward, appropriately.
I have a couple of issues. In the approval process for this, I had specifically mentioned that the crown molding on the front part of the building was very substantial and looked nice, and I wanted it to be saved. And Warren, I believe it said, yes, we save it if we can. If not, we'll replicate it in kind. And the historic notation for this house, when it first went on, it mentioned the highly detailed cornice molding, and it's gone. And I specifically said I wanted it left or replicated in kind, and it's not there. So I have an issue with that. The other thing is the plan showed transom across the front top of the front door. That's not there. And I also see the front door. There's not an entry floor level to the inside of the house, and that can't be up to building code.
Platform.
Yeah, so that front porch, Michael, is not complete. There's a temporary set of steps there put in during construction, but they know they have to complete the front step and porch in accordance with the drawings that you also approved. The
Shouldn't be occupying the house with those construction steps there.
I have to defer to John Fenton on that. I wasn't part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I just personally, I want to thank the village for extending a temporary certificate of occupancy during, what was obviously a very trying time. So I appreciate the village's understanding during, what was supposed to be a project that was going to be finished in April. Obviously, there were obvious reasons why building had to be further delayed. So.
With respect to Michael's comment about the, actually there's like a freeze board at the top. That was in our drawings running all the way around the top of the second story, as was in the original house. Both I and John Fenton looked at both the clapboards that came off the house, which you may recall had originally been clapboards, and then at some later date, Tim had observed they'd been removed and put on vertically as a sheathing before the later wood shingles were put on. And those were removed carefully, but they were most of them were significantly split, and there were very short pieces that were available to use, and a lot of seams would have looked not very good. So both John Fenton and I looked at the wood, and again, not to put words in John's mouth, he can speak for himself, but we did look at what came off the building and felt that couldn't be used. And unfortunately, the same was true for the trim at the top of the building. The historic listing, as I recall, noted the rather delicate quality of the trim, but it was an historic element and a very attractive element. And that also was not in a condition to be reused, but there was intended to be a freeze board reinstalled, a new freeze board put around the top under the raked overhang. And if that's not there, I apologize, I haven't noticed it. I will certainly go and take a look, but that was a feature.
That was really nice crown molding, and it looked fine from ground level. And I believe your comment was if we couldn't save it, we would replicate it in kind.
That's correct. Yeah.
And Warren, you are correct. Yeah. I mean, just to be on the careful side, that's why when you came to me, I forwarded an email, thank God I saved it, to the board, explaining to them in detail what happened. So, and I have confirmation from the board members that we are to proceed with like-in-kind material. So,
well, that was specific to the siding.
Yes.
That was the siding. That was not the freeze board. So
right.
we did agree that and I believe it was in a meeting actually we discussed and agreed that it would be unreasonable to expect them to try to piece together any of the siding given the condition of it when they removed it. But the freeze board is I think a separate issue.
It is a separate issue, but the same issues with it pertain, that it wasn't able to be removed.
Right, but
sufficiently
as you replicated the siding,
yeah,
you could replicate the freeze board.
Right, and I frankly wasn't aware that hadn't been done, and I will look at that and we'll address that.
Okay.
So,
Do you know if a piece was retained so that you could do an accurate copy?
I would have to check. I don't know that offhand.
so our issues are the freeze board, the front steps, which have to be finished correctly. You can't open a door and step
The
down.
front
and
entryway is
kill
not
yourself.
as it was presented on the design.
Right, and it was a transom. I know that door is, and then the side porch was supposed to be a nice looking side porch, and there's some kind of louvered thing. And then of course there's the gigantic chimney that wasn't supposed to be there.
The chimney
Tell
doesn't.
me about the chimney. That's like new brick, a new chimney. It's just a new chimney there.
It's a new house.
Yeah, it's a new house.
house.
Right. But I mean, that's not all brick. This is new brick, new chimney, right?
Yes.
It's
Yes,
a modern
okay.
construction chimney.
Yes.
A new structured chimney. Okay.
I can deal with the chimney issue in terms of it is far enough back.
Yeah, I'm okay.
You know, I'm more concerned with, again, that side entry porch and the freeze board, and that the front entry be consistent with what was presented in the plans.
Okay, so the issue of the front entry is interesting. I guess I didn't realize that there was a change there too. I don't know, Jeffrey, do you have anything to contribute to that one?
Well, let me take a look at what you mean by change. I think we should stick with the last set of drawings that we had gone over and that was approved by the board. Is there a specific change you're referring to, Warren?
Well, I think they referred to a transom window above the front door, and maybe you ended up with a taller front door.
Ryan, do you have a copy of the last set of plans available?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
do. I can share my screen, and we can look at them if you like.
Right.
I understand. Okay, so
See if I can do that.
all right.
Screen sharing. Is that something that Ryan or John has
Ryan
to
has
do?
to turn her on.
Okay. Oh, I see. Share screen. Okay. Let me then go to. So this should be. These are the drawings that the planning board approved. And in the there on the front sheet, you can see there's a transom over the door,
I see.
and the elevation should show that as well. If you look at the lower right corner, there's a transom over the front door. So if we then go to the subsequent drawings for the permit, that transom is still there on the drawings for the permit, and it's on the elevation. So to the extent that there is no transom
The permit
there.
drawings were supposed to replicate what was approved
Right.
by the board.
Right, correct. So,
if you
so
make
I
changes
can't speak to that
subsequent
change.
to the approval, then that's inconsequential.
No, I understand, but in fact,
Right.
the transom of the front door is shown in the drawings for the
Right.
permit as well as the drawings for approval.
Right. As is the side porch.
Right, the
Right.
side porch is open, and you can't
Right.
see the front door steps, but it is the code that you have to have I think a 3-foot platform before the first step, equal to the height of the threshold of the front door. You can't open a door and step down 8 inches, you'll fall and break your head. So
Yeah, but I mean, there are provisions in the code for cases where you can do that, but it's not very often at a front entrance. And I don't think that's not the intent here anyway, so.
Yeah.
Are there more details? Other
You can see the
visuals?
steps on the far left.
Detail of the front porch? I thought there was a larger scale.
Well, there's a floor plan that shows the plan. The one in the middle is the first floor plan, so you can see there is a stoop there and steps down. And the elevations again show the same thing. But again, that's a temporary set of stairs there, so that we know is going to be remedied. You can see there is a freeze board shown running up and down the gable and across the front. It's less apparent at the front because of the roof overhang. But we can certainly address those items. But I don't know when the transom went away. Again, it wasn't a decision I was part of. The only reason I could think of would be if the door ended up being a taller front door, but I'm not
But
aware.
it's not a tall front door,
Right.
which kind of also takes it out of scale.
Mhm.
If you look at the house to the east and the house to the west, they both have transoms above their front doors,
Right.
as do many of the other houses along East Market Street.
Right. So, I mean, I would say, Jeffrey, if this is a change you're requesting the planning board to allow, then you would need to, make that request. So,
Yeah, I can't, again, I don't recall the specifics of that change. Now that I look at the drawings, I'd have to go back and review again a bit more with the builder, what that, sort of when that change exactly occurred.
Well, the important thing is that we wanted Mr. Fenton to have a list of what needs to be addressed before a permanent C of O is issued on the building.
that's reasonable. Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then, if you want to apply for any changes to the approved site plan, then you would need to do that formally through an amended site plan.
Sure.
Right.
I mean, if I could speak to that very quickly, I would ultimately say, at this point, putting a transom above the front door, I would probably apply for a variance to the board on that. Obviously the changes to the chimney as well. With regards to the side porch, that being open, that's something that's, much more easily sort of dealt with. So if there is a consensus from the standpoint of the board, I could, my thought was, number one, apply for the variance if that is something that the board, again, feels strongly about. Then
So it's really up to you to decide what you want to apply for. And then we would respond to that
Will do.
application.
If you want to be on the
We've
agenda,
given you a sense in terms of, at least some of us have given you a sense in terms of where we stand individually regarding some of these issues.
All right. Very good.
and if you want to make some changes, apply for an amended site plan. Friday night is the closing for the September 1st meeting. You have to get paperwork
Okay.
to Michael Gee, to Ryan Dowden 10 days before the meeting. And then we meet next Monday, Michael D., Ryan, and John Fenton and I to review the applications for September 1st. So
Now, a transom would not be that difficult in addition, right? I mean, it's not like redoing the chimney. As a carpentry project, is that a huge carpentry project? Put the transom
well,
in?
you have to think about it, Mary, and decide what you want to do.
Okay. Okay, I'm thinking
I can
about
work
that.
with, I can work with Jeffrey to put together an application for an amended application for anything that they wish to request you reconsider.
Okay.
I would just suggest that at least I feel very strongly about the side porch, the frieze, and that the front doorway should be consistent with the front doorway that was approved.
And the permanent stairs obviously have to be up to code, or they
Yes.
can't be approved.
Yes.
Well, that's a
It's a
given.
Fenton issue. All right, well, think
All right,
about
very
it and let Ryan know by Friday night what you want to do.
We will. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Ryan, can we go back to the Beck?
Yes, we can. The applicant is here. Aaron?
Yes. Start the video. Okay. Thank you. And apologies for being late. Sorry about that.
So you're replacing the 100 Mile store on the first floor.
Correct. S3 is replacing it on the top floor.
What is the Beck?
The Beck is essentially my wife and I are collaborating on this concept. The Beck itself kind of serves for both of us in order to be able to work together and to be able to focus and highlight Hudson Valley makers. My wife's an interior designer, I'm an accountant. We both have clients in the industry, both have a passion for what we do, as well as for the local area. So the Beck itself kind of serves, instead of me having my office separately, her having her office separately, the Beck kind of serves as the place where we're both going to be working in. The Beck is more of a concept where, again, it focuses and stresses on community. There will be a gallery. The front window is going to serve as a gallery where Anna Claudia plans to highlight a local Hudson Valley maker once a quarter. So you can see there, pretty much just in that area is where the gallery will sit. So the office itself is appointment only, but that pretty much sums up really the concept of the Beck itself.
Right, so we did an analysis that says 10.5 feet, of which I think 4.5 feet were used by the other office on the second floor, and you're using up the sign plus something on the window.
Yes, correct.
And is that 5.56 combined? The Beck going up and down and the Beck going across?
No, here you can see we're still below the 15 feet. The total area is 1,373 square inches. So we're coming in below the below combined limit.
No, what is this in the dark? Let's watch the trailer for that.
The Beck sign on the side of the building, all that we're concerned about is the Beck sign on the side of the building and the Beck sign in the glass. And that you have like, Tim, did we say 5.5 or 6.5 feet left?
Can we go back to the first page? The application itself?
Right, so it said.
So there was a total of 10.5 square feet available for the building, right?
Yeah, and the first store took 4 square feet, leaving 6.5 square feet. And so you're using.
The applicant is using over 7 square feet between the window sign and the hanging sign. So something needs to be reduced.
You're doing your calculation based on the building, and you don't have that because 4 square feet was just approved for upstate modernists, leaving you with 6.5 square feet for your signage.
Okay. Okay, so as long as we come into that number, we'll be fine.
Right, that's fine.
Okay.
Well,
How big is
your
the
presentation should reflect something.
Yeah, everything will be certainly the redo of the documentation will have the precise measurements.
So the Beck.
So
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
Without going out and measuring, it's 21 feet across the front of the building?
Yeah, I think, let me see. What
One says 21 and one says
21 and one says 20.
Yeah. So.
I mean, it's kind of silly, but that half a square foot can make a difference.
Right, exactly.
Correct.
I hear you. It does.
So I don't know who's right.
So we need to find out who's right.
Exactly.
Because we approved the 4 square footage already. So
it's either 6 or 6.5 left.
Well, some of the smaller lines of both on the left and the right of the window, I mean, getting rid of those, that by itself may get us there.
The only things that count are a box around the words. Or the
only thing that counts is the box around the words. So the straight lines that we have.
The red lines are around the back on the center window.
That's the only
what counts.
Okay.
As signage.
Is that the only thing that counts then? And then the
hanging sign counts as a separate sign.
No, yes, I understand that, but I'm saying if the Beck in the middle, in the glass counts,
As
and
long
the
as
Beck,
you're not putting the Beck or any other signage elsewhere on any of the glass, then it's only the area squaring or putting a rectangle around the Beck as you have there. So you could shrink the distance between the word "the" and Beck and reduce the size of that window sign.
if we remove the website URL on the bottom, the
The website URL we typically don't count as signage.
Okay. Okay, so it's specifically just the Beck in the middle. That specifically.
Beck in the middle and the Beck
on the sign
and the hanging sign.
All right. I mean, if we moved them both in a little bit, you know, that may get us there.
Right.
Okay.
And again, we have a kind of a mandate to try to keep people within the sign allocations.
Oh, sure.
One of the things that keeps Rhinebeck from the village of Rhinebeck from being cluttered with signs or with signs that are more overwhelming than we want in the community.
No, it makes sense, and it keeps it consistent as well.
Right.
So, do we need to bother then figuring out whether it's 20 or 21 feet, or?
Well, only because that determines whether you have 6 square feet or 6.5 square feet to work with.
Okay.
So if you take a measurement from the left corner to the right corner of the building, or vice versa, and divide that by 2, that will tell you the amount of square footage available for the building. And you have what's left of the amount minus 4 square feet.
Okay.
So do we want to hold off until September 1st until this is clarified?
I can get this turned around for you. I heard if your deadline is Friday.
Friday, we need to know Friday night. By end of the day.
We'll get it to you before Friday night. That's not a problem.
Okay. Will you going to measure it? Mr. Fenton's going to measure it?
Well, I mean, who should? I mean, in a way, it should be like an independent person just to make sure we get the right number. I mean,
Yeah, I'm not going to be measuring it. So I'm leaving it up to the applicant to measure that.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm happy to. And again, I don't know if we even measure this was this number was provided to us, but I'll definitely double check. And then let you guys know. And if it's the 21, then we're okay as is. And if it's 20,
no,
we need to
with the
adjust
21, you're still based
Still
upon what you presented on the application. You're over. If it's 21, you have 6.5 square feet, and here you have
7
square feet.
Yeah, more than 7.
If you add up the hanging sign and the window sign.
We'll
but we're adding everything that is in red, both on the left and the right of the window. Those are inclusive in our 7 square feet number. So if you're saying that should not count, and again, I will get every
so you need to get us the measurement of where it says the Beck.
And the Beck, the 2 the Becks.
Fine, perfect.
A rectangle around the area in the glass.
Yep.
And the actual size of the sign.
Perfect.
For the hanging sign.
And those are the only 2 pieces that you're concerned with.
Right. And then recognize that the village code does not allow you to just arbitrarily put up additional signage or put out sandwich board signs or create different signage. This is kind of what you live with unless you apply for additional signage.
Anything that was sitting inside, that does not.
And anything inside needs to be at least a foot off the glass.
Okay.
And would typically need to be something similar to what a store display would be. in a store window.
And those do not require approval.
As long as they are not, in other words, if they are merchandise or something that represents what you do there, then they typically do not require approval.
Okay.
Lots of
I'm
hands
happy to
up.
As long as you're not trying to sell neon signs or fluorescent signs.
I can promise you no neon signs. We may have a fluorescent light in there just to kind of clean the air, but that's going to be the only fluorescent that you may possibly see.
Right.
Okay, so let me get the. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so work on that and get that to Ryan by Friday afternoon.
Perfect. I certainly will.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, guys. I appreciate the time and the input.
Right. So the last item on the agenda, Mr. Fenton has to explain to us what we're supposed to do about this. This is the giant 5,000 square foot red barn at Hogg's Bridge.
Well, the applicant is looking to go forward with the project.
This is the
I'm
same
still-
applicant we dealt with before, correct?
Yep.
Okay.
And I'm still waiting to hear back from the town with respect to their findings and
Town sent out
approval.
two very cryptic letters that I think we all got this afternoon. Something about Welch survey and a ZBA. They don't need a variance for the town for whatever this project is about. And then for site plan approval, it meets the requirements of chapter 125 and the chairman can sign the plans. But what is it? What do we, I mean, do we need to talk about this red barn, or it's a one-family house in a non-historic district and we're only here because of the variance from the code of the 10 to 25 feet for a front yard setback? It's way up the hill. Plus, we have to address the curb driveway that the village plows use to make a turn in it. Is that it? I got that right, John?
Well, the thing is, it's not in the historic district, so it doesn't require site plan approval. It does need relief because it doesn't comply with the front setback. There is that asterisk that allows the planning board to make that call. As long as the adjacent properties do fall back within that setback. The other thing was, I don't have a final plan from the applicant. Hello?
Yeah, I know. We didn't
Right,
get new plans.
so there might be an issue with the garage maybe being beyond the front facade. There had been some questions about that. So as of right now.
I thought we had cleared that up in terms of that they could not have the garage
Right.
as part of the front.
Well, he said he wasn't doing the garage when we had that conversation.
Right, initially they
So-
wanted a guest house in the front.
Yeah, is he here tonight, Ryan?
No, he did not.
So-
I don't see him here. No.
We need a copy of the plans that Michael Trimble signed. We need to see what the final plan is that they think is fine.
Or what they
There-
want to submit as a plan.
Is this what's being built? Was this what was approved? This is a year old.
Yeah, I don't know. So I don't,
know.
you know, this is just an informal discussion.
Yeah.
The applicant was supposed to be in tonight's meeting to kind of run through the entire, I rather just not talk about it anymore.
Yeah, I know. We don't know anything. So
Because we're only speculating. So
we
I
haven't
don't-
seen
I
the
don't-
final plans. We need to see the plans that Michael Gee signed, because those are the final plans.
I didn't sign anything.
Different Michael.
Michael
Trimble.
Michael Trimble.
Sorry. Too many Michaels and definitely too many Johns.
It's not a Della matter.
Not a dollar matter. No, it's not.
Kilometer.
So I guess we have to think about, you could think about the U-shaped driveway. I know the town plows love it to make that turnaround, but I think we wanted to have one straight driveway with the best sight lines. And the distance, how far back is that from the road? It's way beyond 25 feet.
So I believe when we discussed this with the applicant before, we kind of recognized that this was a unique parcel in the village. because of its
Right.
location in both the village and the town. And I thought we provided some latitude in terms of, or supported anyway, the latitude in terms of siting it further from the road than
don't think we have-
required by code, though I don't think we necessarily excuse the applicant from applying for a variance and going through the actual process.
So the
Because
fact that it's in the town and the village is not an issue. That's all cleared up. It's fine that it's in both.
No, not necessarily. We don't
Not
have
necessarily.
we don't have the final results. But Tim,
Okay.
you're making a good point. The thing is, the
can I have
board
that
does
in
not.
writing, please?
But no, you do. So the thing is, you don't have to make that call. You can have them go for the variance which kicks in a public hearing, and then you can basically put the conditions on it and so on. So, you know what I mean? So that's the position of the board, then that would be so be it, go that route. But he's not, he hasn't come to us formally with any application yet.
I don't want to talk about this till I can have some plans to look at. I
The
want to
front
see the
yard
plans
variance
that,
typically is evoked, or the planning board decision on it is evoked when there's a property to the right and a property to the left that, they're consistent with those properties, and this is not going to be consistent with
Right.
adjacent properties.
Yep. It's definitely unique.
It's unique, and again, I don't necessarily have any problem with it, but I also don't know that we want to circumvent the process.
is the corner of the house 10 feet from the property line of the
Well, that's why we need to find out from them.
yeah, we need plans.
I
Yeah.
believe, if I remember correctly, at one point they had plans that had the garage within the side yard setback.
Right.
Yeah.
But I could be wrong on that, but
So Ryan, the last time we spoke with the applicant, why is he even on the agenda? Isn't he the one that requested to be on tonight's agenda?
He requested to be on tonight's agenda because he had expressed to us that he had completed the approval process with the town and then needed to finish the approval process for the portion of the home that exists in the village.
Okay. And so today I spoke with the town planning and zoning clerk and the zoning administrator, and that isn't really the case. He still needs to go through some approval process. So I think we need to basically put this guy on the back burner until he's ready.
well, or he could do it. He could do it simultaneously,
In fact, he should.
as long as he's presenting consistent plans to both the town and the village.
Hey, we shouldn't be held hostage by the town if they approve something.
Oh.
And then we object, then he has to go back to the town again. It seems to me he
Right.
should do one proposal
Or vice versa.
simultaneously with the town and the village.
I'm upset that we were not even consulted or told about this by the town.
Do we even
Okay.
attempt? Do we even attempt to try to get a united meeting between the two
On this?
municipalities?
I don't think we need to go that far.
No.
That would be too confusing over Zoom.
I know the other piece of information that you were looking for, John Fenton, was the bulk regs. And after some attempts to contact the applicant, he just kept sending back the same site plan over and over again. So I don't know if there's some confusion and he's not understanding, but that's what we're missing as well, the bulk regulations as it pertains to the village code.
Okay.
So correct me if I'm wrong, that would, for the village part, it would depend on how much property there is in the village and how much of that property is covered by structure, right?
Yeah, that's
Well, if
one.
most of the houses in the town, as long as he's not covering more than 30% in the village. Is that the right number?
Yep.
than the bulk pieces, but we'd have to see that plan.
Right. And we gotta show, he's gotta show setbacks. Yeah, there was quite a bit that we were asking for. The last conversation we had with him, it appeared to be that he was ready to take the next step. And I thought today's meeting was us kind of informing him of the next step on our end. And that's not the case.
I walked that property with him. That was over a year ago. And I thought he was ready to go.
Well, he was, but he went to.
Wasn't that? Yeah, that was a year ago. Sure.
The thing says, the seeker's okay, and then based on the information, including reports and the planning board site visit to the property, is consistent with the objectives in chapter 125, the chairman can sign it. Don't they have minutes? It says we talked about it. We were concerned about the 100-foot setback from the stream, blah, blah, blah. There's nothing. They don't have any minutes in the town. They don't have any discussion of what they did.
I don't know what their setback requirements are in the town.
Well, their setback was from 100 feet from the kill. The whole place had to be.
Oh, you mean they had a
Right.
wetland? They had a wetland.
Right,
setback.
that was why the location of the structure had to
so close
cross
to the
both the
property.
village and town.
Right. Because he can't build on almost all of this thing. There's very little land he can build on.
And I believe the front setback had some issues because of the only location he could put a septic system.
Right.
But again,
I don't think we have a problem with that it's way back. I don't think that's a problem. I just think
The way the road curves, up there, it won't look like it's, the next house, how the road curves? I'd like an aerial view.
He has to make the case that where he's putting it is within the setbacks of the two adjacent properties, or he has to get a variance.
Right, that's what I was saying before, that, and we probably want him to go through that process rather than, because it does not appear that at least the property to the south, the structure is fairly close to the road.
it's not your standard waiver, right?
Right.
The power plant is right on the road.
Right.
Finish renovating
It
that.
depends on the next house over if we want to count that. But
which is
we
in the
can't
town.
make it if it's not within the setback of the two adjacent properties. I don't have a problem with being a positive recommendation on a variance, but I don't want to just waive it if he's not within.
Right. Right.
They have till Friday night to submit something if they want to be on September 1st, with plans, with what they're asking for. Because I can't see from this little thing whether the corner of the house is 10 feet from the property line or not. I saw the septic system is out in front of the house, so that's why I had to be so far back. And then we have to talk about that U-shaped driveway, which is the better entrance or exit in terms of site plan. You begin to make you start to make a sweeping curve as you pass the electric plant.
It's not good site business to do a site distance analysis for us. Because to the right, fine, but to the left, you're gonna get hit. People come down that hill and around that curve really fast.
They do.
I went down there and turned around this afternoon in that driveway. And
Yeah, you were driving really fast, John. I saw you.
And, the power plant is right on the road and blocks any view of that driveway. Fast.
So tell him he has to do a site analysis, a site distance analysis, left and right from the proposed driveway exit.
We don't want two of these.
Well, I think we want it for a driveway entrance and exit.
In the best
I
possible
don't know that we
spot.
want to approve two.
No.
I think it's better to have one, and it's better to have it as far to the north as possible.
Right. I agree. Yep. And, the other thing is he can say, well, I'm going to use the one to the south as the entrance and the one to the north as the exit. But we have no way of enforcing that.
That's why one is probably a better option than two.
Right.
Because even the one to the north is really scary. The one to the south would be suicidal.
Yeah. It's natural. When you start going downhill, forget 30 miles an hour. You begin picking up speed.
And that's just you running, David.
Well, I go a little faster going. It's easier running downhill than running uphill. That's true.
It's all downhill from here, David.
All downhill, yes. I run past there every weekend. It's my long run past the powerhouse and turn around at that driveway. All right. Well, so they got till Friday night to submit something. And,
Or not.
Or not.
Yeah, and then lastly was the Bender's project. I spoke with the attorneys and they will be ready for September 1st meeting.
So we need to see the fire department's drawings. Were they happy? Was the chief happy with the turnaround? Did they have to make it wider and lose a couple of parking spots? You know, or is it okay to make that turn? I know they gave up on removing the bollards and putting a gate because CVS is not a viable entrance. We got the plans from the engineer. We didn't have them last week. And then we need Wallace and Frontier and Victoria to make a deal.
The easement issues.
And we need that in writing.
Yeah, that's okay. What it was is I went out there. It was myself, the fire chief, and Christian Paggi, the applicant's attorney or engineer. And so what we decided was that Christian Paggi, who recorded the entire event, was to submit something formally. You weren't going to get something from the fire chief and then or something from me. It was strictly coming from Paggi. So, but I spoke to Victoria and I told her, listen, here's a cutoff. And so they're aware of it. So it's, you know, the ball's in there.
I have a question, John.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't we want to sign off from either the fire chief or you that the interests of the village are being met rather than just assuming that the engineer for the applicant is doing that?
We could do that. I mean, I could, you want
I mean,
separate.
I agree that he, you know, it's fine for him to prepare it. But I do think that it should be signed off on by the fire chief, and if you need to sign off on it, so that we can be reasonably assured that it's correct, accurate, you know.
Yep, I could do that. Yep, what I'll do is I'll notify the engineer to have 2 more locations on the bottom of the draft for us to sign off. The only comment that the chief made was that it was able to make the swing, that turn, but the only thing that was an issue with it was there was a tree, like a locust tree, that cantilevered into that traffic lane, and that had to be trimmed back, if not removed. So that was the only request from the chief. Other than that, geographically, I mean, it was able to make that total swing and without removing any parking spaces. So, but anyway, we'll get that information formally.
Do we know what kind of artwork he's going to display?
Who is that?
Bender within the
Yeah, no comment. Fire lives matter.
And they're finally working on Hobson's.
I know.
Well, they received a stop work order.
Oh, why?
Why?
From the DOT. Because the DOT, they don't really want to spend any money. They don't care what you do. But the second you do something without a permit, just for the sake of issuing them $300 and $400, they're going to stop the project. And basically, there hadn't been any changes to warrant a permit. But if you're within that right of way, you have to pull a permit. And it's just something that had to be documented and on file. But again, their engineers were supposed to take care
How are
of
they
that
ever
part.
going to open a year and a half ago?
Yeah, they're on the COVID schedule.
So does anybody have any, we don't have the minutes yet. We'll approve the minutes.
Now, I did speak to, so Martina's been doing the minutes. She had been out sick, and she's also, unfortunately, there's another meeting tonight with the village board. So she wasn't able to attend this meeting, but she said that she will definitely have the minutes before next meeting.
Did anything
Make
of
a
substance
motion to
come
adjourn.
out of that meeting about the Bulkley School?
Say that again, John?
I think David and Tim were going to have a conversation with the people, the real estate agent for the Bulkley School.
We did.
Not with the real estate agent, with the owner,
Okay.
They
the
wanted,
prospective owner of,
Oh, the new owner.
well, not new owner, but he's in contract.
Right.
And we basically, discussed what the options were in terms of that he had the option of applying for a demolition permit, which would be the logical first step if his plans include not utilizing that building going forward. Correct, add in as we go along, David, but we did discuss the prior sketch that provided for 6 parcels, subdivision into 6 parcels. If the building was eliminated, if the Buckley School building was eliminated, and that any other proposals that are outside of what's within the code would require some sort of either variance or change in the code by the village board.
And John Marvin said that, well, the only other alternative to demoing it and putting up 6 units, which is what's allowed on that square footage, is to sort of redo a development plan, I think, to put if you were to put 10 or 12 units in there, it couldn't be apartments, but if it was condos, it'd be 10 or 12 houses, and that wouldn't be, violate the multifamily rule. But John Marvin said the law states that if the property holds 6 units, meaning 6 houses after a demolition, the building itself could house 6 condos, because 6 things are all that's allowed on that acreage. And John Marvin said that's the way he believed it worked.
Did you talk about the possibility of 2-family rehab of that building with 4 additional lots?
We mentioned that to Mason, he wasn't interested.
Well, in terms of the primary issue in terms of the prospective buyer is the fiscal viability of developing that property. And the fiscal viability does not exist in terms of, from his perspective, or what he expressed, of anything fewer than 6 or more housing units.
And we said, well, what about your plan of knocking off the cinder block part of the building? And they are not sure what the building would look like on the north side were you to remove the cinder block building. What would that side which faces East Market Street look like once the cinder block building was ripped off? Are the bricks there? Is it or is the whole facade going to have to be rebuilt to look like the original brick building? And the bottom line is it's 25% of what once was a very beautiful historic building, just that back section. So I don't know, it's up to them. If I don't think that there is real use for that building. I don't think that you're going to get a buyer for it. I don't think it's going to sell unless something is worked out. So that's why we said, okay, I said this 6 months ago to the real estate broker, apply for a demolition permit. That way you'll find out how the board feels. We'll have a public hearing, find out how the public feels about it, and then a decision will be made, and that will tell you whether or not other options are available. And she said, we don't have anybody right now who wants to knock it down. And
All right, so the other thing that we did kind of discover was in looking at the old postcards, the part that remains in terms of the Buckley School was probably the last addition prior to the fire in 1939, probably constructed sometime in the teens or early 20s. And if you look at the postcards, the earlier postcards, you can see that the parts of the building that were destroyed in the fire would have been
Beautiful.
probably worth trying to keep and protect.
So at this point, I don't think any of us quite understand what's available.
And
what's gonna happen.
the eastern facade of that building was nothing was done to the roof line or anything. It was built that way. It's just the last piece of what were 4 different constructions on that site.
So I don't know what's going to happen. So I believe they're going to apply for a demolition permit, and we'll see how the board feels, how the public feels.
Are they the owners? Have they bought it?
They've gone
No,
into
they have not
contract
bought it.
subject to something. I don't know. They didn't tell us what it was, how much the sale price was or anything else. But he has, if he doesn't like the results, I guess he can walk away. And if he can't build 6 houses, maybe he will. I don't know. And I don't think I don't know. I don't think you're going to find a buyer who wants to do something with that building. The asbestos removal, the red paint removal, even the demolition, he said, is more expensive because you have to physically remove all the asbestos, whereas you can encapsulate it if you're recycling the building. You want to knock it down, I don't want to breathe asbestos. So everybody else around the area doesn't want it, so it's really got to be totally expensively removed before it can be demolished.
There was also some discussion in terms of, though it's 16,000 square feet, that it doesn't convert to 16,000 square feet of usable space because of the construction of the building. That between the hallways and the walls that have to stay because they're bearing walls, that the opportunities for doing anything terribly creative in that building are less than one might expect.
So it's my opinion, if the demolition permit isn't issued, it's just going to sit there. And I think half the church wants it to sit there. So I have no idea what's going to happen. We'll have to see. So they're going to apply. Are they going to be on for the 1st? September 1st, or they will be ready? You don't know. You haven't gotten it. Okay, well, we'll see what happens. Stay tuned. But it's a very, very difficult thing to do with that land.
I thought the consensus of the board is we were going to try to keep that building and come up with creative ways of doing so.
That may have been your consensus, but I don't think that was necessarily the consensus.
It went around last time, and you were the only one who didn't agree that we should try to save that building.
I would love to see something. I would love to see something creative done with it or part of it. I mean, yes.
You're not a buyer, and you're not.
And I'm not a buyer, no, but I'm saying if it could be saved, that would be wonderful.
And again, the other part of the process would be how long it would take.
In terms of deciding whether they can demolish it or not. So if indeed they don't have the votes to demolish, then they have to come up with a creative solution.
Well, I think.
Or it can sit the way it is.
This buyer will walk away, and I think they lost 2 or 3 other buyers. I don't think anyone's going to make. It'd be great as Rhinebeck Hall for the town and the village to be in, but I think Elizabeth and Gary want it for $1. They're not going to spend $1.5 million on the building. So I have no idea.
I don't know that I want my tax dollars spent that way either, given what it would cost to make it a usable building.
Because I think it might be different regulations for a government building than a private home in terms of the.
Mike, you've been in it. Does it have an elevator?
Does it have an elevator? No.
Right. So we know how successful the village was in terms of putting a lift in the village hall. I can only imagine what it would cost to make it ADA compliant.
I'm not considering that as an option.
Why?
Well, John Clark, you can buy it.
Yeah, so I don't know. So they're gonna submit a demolition permit. We'll discuss it amongst ourselves. We'll have people weighing in pros and cons of demolition. And we'll take a vote and we'll see where that goes. And then the buyer has to decide what they want to do. And there maybe no other buyer comes along and just sits there. I don't know. But
Will
they
the
do-
public hearing be on the 1st?
No.
Or no?
Oh,
No,
there's
it'll
no,
be
there's
after.
no application.
Right, okay, so that'll be later in the
We
fall.
have the application. If it's in by Friday, then we would discuss it and listen to their justification, financial hardship, whatever the rules are in the demolition permit. And then we would schedule a public hearing for the 2 weeks from then. Now the
Or
public.
later, depending on how long it will take them to prepare the material necessary to make a presentation.
And after the public weighs in, we would be asked to vote on it, yes or no. And then whatever that vote comes to, and the buyer has to decide what he wants to do, or walk away or wait till another buyer comes along. It's a very, very challenging property financially.
And in that process, they could come up with a proposal that might require some sort of zoning change or variances. But again, the person that we talked to did not appear inclined.
This buyer was not inclined to do it.
Yeah.
Somebody might want to turn it into a 10, maybe 10 condos and go to the village and say, we want to go from 6 to 10. Is that the village board? Is that a variance? Is that a zoning change? I don't know. I'm not a lawyer. But I don't think this buyer is going to be interested in it if the building can't be torn down. So I'll have to go for another buyer.
And normally, a historic preservation law has a hardship waiver, but ours doesn't. It's strictly a yes or no from the planning board, and they give you the ability to vary or waive, but it's us rather than appeal to the zoning board of appeals, which is sort of normal for a historic preservation law. But if they wanted to do something, say 8 units or 10 units or whatever, and they think might make that building viable economically, they could get an area variance for that, because that's just a square footage requirement of the district in terms of the number of units, I believe.
Why wouldn't they have to get a use variance?
Yeah, I think it might be used, John, just because of the amount of units.
But would that be saying that, 8 or 10 rental apartments? Is that different if they wanted to do 8 or 10 condos?
That's what I mean.
10 condos is not a 10-family house, which would violate the code of 2 family is the most you can have. Is that, I don't know. There's a lot of legal questions and a lot of village board and zoning board of appeals. We'll take it one step at a time. They're going to apply for a demolition permit and see what happens. And that'll affect all future buyers should this buyer walk away, knowing that it can't be torn down. You have to, now, I don't know, can they Article 78 us and say we're being unfair?
Yes.
They have a building which can't be made current use of, and we're obstruction is saying we're tied to the Brogan Center. We love it because everybody's mother who lives in Rhinebeck went to that school.
And some fathers too.
And fathers, yes. Sorry.
Not be sexist.
Because people have written to me, oh, my mother went to that school and I graduated from that high school and blah, blah, blah. So, I don't know. This is a real challenge. It's a real challenge. And we'll see what happens. So that's where we are.
Has the applicant gone to the village board at all? Are they strictly a single-family home? That's the only option they're going to consider.
No, they're now understanding the alternatives that they have. They're going to look at those alternatives in terms of what they can come up with in terms of making that property economically viable for development. So if it involves, utilizing the existing building, then they understand that they will need to go through a process with the village board in terms of, likely have to go through a process with the village board in terms of either a zoning change or go through a variance process with the planning board and the zoning board.
If
So
what they're
basically
trying
we
to
did is try
do,
to explain to them what their options were, without trying to lead them into a decision necessarily.
Did anybody contact, or has anybody looked at what Neil Larson did? Did he come up with any further information or additional form data that would say that this is definitely a contributing building in the historic district?
All I got from John Rossi, who got it from Neil Lawson, is a summary. I think we sent that out. It's a summary, like one paragraph at each building. There, Jennifer Betzworth has those 2-page forms that are filled out, which describe, everything. And we looked at some of the things. Michael looked at the house across the street from him, and I looked at my house and other houses. The dates seem off. So he has a 108 East Market Street being a critically important building in the historic district, and it's brand new. So I don't know how proofreading works of this, or I haven't seen. No one has the detailed sheets. They're in Albany. All they have is one paragraph.
Presumably there is one on the Bulkley School.
Yeah, we looked at it. Doesn't say much.
No, I mean a new one, an updated one from Neil Larson. Is there one of those?
Well, it was in the historic district already, so the extent to which he updated it would probably be minimal, since nothing has changed in terms of that building.
Well, 40 years have changed since it was last.
But nothing has changed with the building. So that there's nothing that would or should impact the description of the building.
No, I'm talking about the judgment as to whether it's a contributing or non-contributing building. That one might have changed since it's 40 years later.
is it ever possible for the buyer to get a grant? They're trying to preserve a historic building, to get a grant from the Thompson Trust or the Frost Foundation to preserve the old building, and incorporate it in what they're doing.
So why would the Thompson Trust or the Frost Foundation?
I have no idea. I'm just trying to think of a
expend
way.
money on that when they could expend money on other projects that would not serve to line the pockets of a developer.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I'm just thinking 100 years from now, all the people, as we do with a lot of pictures of buildings, who would say, how did they ever let them tear down that building?
Well, 100 years from now, they're going to be talking about raised ranches that way.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, whatever they can do.
I doubt it.
Yeah.
Aren't you a snob, huh?
No, I'm just trying to, brainstorm, any possibilities.
I'm a student of architecture. In
Hey,
15 years, none of those raised ranches will be left because the plywood would have disintegrated.
Well, that'll make them that much more valued if they've survived. Just look at the Brady House, from the Brady Bunch show, and how much
That's right.
acclaim that house has gotten.
I haven't heard that one.
Wait a minute. Can I share screen? Yeah, where is it? Here it is. That's what he said. One paragraph. He spelled the word modern wrong.
That's the architectural way of spelling it.
Oh, it is?
No, I have no idea.
A word thinks it's wrong.
You can't read it.
Huh?
It's contributing, although he's got the date wrong.
1931.
They write in terms of The part that's there.
Many dates are wrong.
Because, well, but we know that it did not exist in 1912.
And
The
it
part
did-
that's still there.
And it was,
And it did exist in 1939.
So the 31 date might be right if he has some source.
Right.
right, okay.
You don't
I-
put 31 out of the air. It's not a date that you would put there unless you had some source.
I thought I've seen postcards dated in the 20s that show that part.
Not that part. You'll see a part that was destroyed in the fire in 1939. There were, I believe, and I'd have to look at the postcard again. If you look at the postcard of after the fire, you'll see that there were three distinct, and then the postcards before the fire, there was the front part that was almost up to East Market Street,
Right.
and then an addition, and then what looks like was the original 1850s school, and then what remains as the Father Brogan Center. And that part that remains, appears in the picture of after the fire exactly the way it appears now on that east side.
Except we don't know if the gym is there or not.
Yeah, those pictures show the back of the building. I don't know what. And again, the new owner would have to figure out what is he going to do with the gym. Is that going to be a giant?
Well, again, that was one of the questions in terms of how to make that square footage viable for development.
But he's got. What is it?
Are you going down to 108 East Market Street?
108 East Market Street, contributing building built in 1802.
So how much of that building
What does that mean?
is there now that was there in 1802?
The front windows.
The front windows. That's
front windows.
Right.
Maybe he did this survey before it was torn down.
No, because he says wood clapboard siding. And it didn't have wood clapboard siding before it was torn down.
You're right.
Yeah, and then he's got, we go down
It
some
didn't have a stone foundation until 3 or 4, pretty recent too.
Right.
So how did the stone foundation get there?
Oates Klieger resident, 1858. It was sold in 1834, was built around 1810. I don't get, Peter Potes bought it in 1834. Why is it 1858? I don't know where these dates came from. I mean, the old one had 1830, and that's still off. It was 1810.
Go to 110 East Market Street for me, David. Just curious.
1810.
It was built in 1802.
Huh?
It was built in 1802.
1802. When the street was open. Street was opened in 1802. South Street was the only way to get to where the mobile station is. Market Street was open from Mulberry to the mobile station, that section, in 1802. And that's when that was built. And what's the house across the street?
The Colton residence, which is Bacalitas, that was also built in 1802. Those were both built in the same year.
108, he says 1802. And my house was probably around 1802 as well, but.
Nah, yours is a little bit later.
Maybe a little later, maybe 1810, but not 1858. 105. I don't know. 103 is an old building, 1890. That's about that. I don't know. These dates concern me. And then we looked at the schoolhouse across from Michael. That date was wrong too. So I don't know. And anyway, it's getting late.
It's getting late.
I make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
See you in 2 weeks. Michael, I'll see you Monday. I guess we got to have our next talk.
Monday?